Welcome back to Blatantly Honest with Makaila Nichols. Today I caught up with a good friend of mine, Cameron Gellman. You may know him as Hourman on DC's Stargirl. At 21, Cameron is a superhero both on and off screen. He's an ambassador for the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation because he too was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at an early age. Cameron hopes to be able to use his new platform for good and to inspire kids everywhere to never let obstacles get in the way of their dreams. It's good to see you, Cameron. We obviously met living in the same apartment complex like 100 years ago when we were both still little puppies. Why don't you start off by telling everyone how you got to LA in the first place?
Yeah, that would require me knowing how I got to LA in the first place. But I was an athlete in St. Louis, Missouri, where I grew up, and I had a pretty gnarly injury when I was 11, so I stopped playing, and I just started doing lots of art stuff at this place called Coca, which was the Center of Creative Arts, and that kind of led to like an acting class, which led to like a theater study, which led to a St. Louis agent, and then all of a sudden, I think summer of 2012, I did a an acting camp at Occidental College. Um,
Okay, all right.
yeah, it was just wild. It was just like I came out to LA, and so I did that first summer. Then the next year, I did a couple like intensives, and then all of a sudden, spring of 2014, I'm doing my first pilot season in LA, and then I moved and I met you in the fall of 2014. So that was my cross country trek. Yeah.
Wow,
How
it
about
was that long ago?
how about you?
How did I? Oh, how about you? Okay, all right.
Yeah, turning it around on the interviewer.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I guess so. All right. I was modeling and I lived I lived in New York and in Miami and someone's like, "Hey, Makaila, you're pretty and why don't you want to act? Like you could do that too." And I was like, "Huh." So I was like at such a weird stage though, man. Like 2014 Makaila was like not not it because it was like I could be 18, but I could be like 12.
Sure.
So yeah. So anyway, so moved to LA, met you, did great. I mean, I had some good stuff going on, but I just don't think it was the right time. So maybe eventually.
Yeah, timing is everything, especially with this city and this career, and I understand that.
So did you always know that you wanted to be an actor? I mean, obviously, like you were an athlete, and were you just like, yo, I'm gonna do this one day?
I don't know. I think it was kind of random for me. Like always creative and always animated and always someone that loves stories, but I don't think I ever, as a kid, was like, I'm gonna be an actor when I grow up. That always blows me away when like kids can say that they were four and they just knew, and their parents like got out of the way. I think it was kind of a not a happy accident, but sort of a perfect random thing that I found while I was healing and exploring my artistic side because the sports was out. I did find a book I wrote in first grade where I said that I wanted to be like Jay Leno when I was older and have a talk show. So
Yeah,
there's like
it's kind
yeah.
of there.
And then I kind of went on to say I wanted to be a famous actor in that, but like I don't think first grade me really knew what this stitch was. And then I think as I did it more, my competitive spirit came out, and I was like, I want this because I want to prove that I can do it. And um, I was still young, like both of us were, and I don't think I understood what it meant as a lifestyle choice. I didn't understand how to balance the drop everything for five auditions a week and let your friendships fail because of it. All that stuff, I didn't understand any of it, and I don't think I did until like a year ago. I'm 21 now. So that's kind of it. Like I just fell in love with it later, way later after doing it. So
Wow. Okay. Hey, that makes sense. So you fell in
kind
love with
of
it.
weird,
It's not it's
you
not
know.
weird. It's not weird. I mean, I feel like being young and almost having to pick like, is this really what I want? I mean, I don't think anyone really knows what they want. So I feel like picking at like 4 years old is like a little bit much. But do you
Yeah,
think that there was points when you were just like, I need to walk away from this?
constantly. Yeah, all the time. I I think LA is a city that teaches very famously teaches this thing like about how to book the room. And so you have people constantly training you on your brand and how to sell the fact that you might sell the fact that like you can look like an actor, but no one's I don't I just there was not a lot. I don't feel like I experienced a ton of being taught the art. And
Mhm.
so I would have lots of moments of being like, why is this even fun? Like, what's the point of this? Like it felt like precision driving. It was like, okay, the scene is I've been given these 12 things to think and say and pivot on, and by the end of it, I'm just like, like glitching out because I don't know if I did it right, and it just didn't seem like fun. And so I think that combined with having these moments where like I wake up after 6 months and be like, wow, I've auditioned 6 times a week this whole time. I've bailed on X amount of people. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not exploring other skills. Like I feel like I'm an intelligent guy that's not educating himself. I feel like I'm a curious person that's not seeing the world or people or whatever. Like I had a lot of those moments where I was like, we are the Horton Hears a Who, like one speck, LA in this whole globe, in this whole universe, and I think this is the end all be all job, and it's not, you know? So I feel
Yeah.
that way all the time, and I felt that way right before I booked this last series. And I think I would have stepped away for a while and gone and traveled or gone to school abroad or something.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I guess, since you kind of brought us there, I really
Yeah,
like The Horton Hears a Who because I love that movie, number one.
loved
Brilliant.
it. Yep,
So how was it booking Stargirl?
crazy. Yeah,
Like, I like just get giddy for you. Like,
yeah,
how is that whole experience? I don't know if you can talk about it, but like walk
totally.
us through it.
Yeah, I mean, uh, booking anything is an anomaly. So you're like, oh wow, that's cool. I might have a career. That's sick. And then finding out the scale of the show and the scale of my role in the show was a very different process. I believe I was the last to book. I think I was the last to round out the series regulars, last or right near next to it. And so by the time I had booked it, everything was happening like that moment. Whereas some of my castmates had booked it in the fall prior, like in September, and so we're like, oh yeah, sometime next year we're gonna go do this. Whereas I booked it and it was like, hey, next week, like you're gonna move to Atlanta. You know what I mean? It felt way more like that. Um,
How was
but
that?
amazing for me. I mean, I haven't been to university like we were chatting about a little earlier, and so for me, going to a new city for 7 months to live on my own, work this kind of crazy job and navigate like just everything, romance and friendships and just like who am I as an adult? Like it was a massive expansive experience for me, kind of as like a kid becoming a little bit more of a man, you know?
Yeah.
So it was kind of all in one. It was a big package of like responsibility and freedom and roaming this new city that was really fun. Atlanta's a blast. It's like always a party in Atlanta. I'm from Missouri, so like I love the Southern comfort and hospitality, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was a lot of things about the experience that were just big for me.
That's awesome. That's so funny when you're just like, because you were, I assume, I mean, I don't want to like rat you out to the world, but like I assume you're living at home and then it's like, oh, I get to go somewhere for 7 months and like be by myself.
Yep,
Wow.
yep.
Cam ran free.
Cameron free. It's just it. Yeah, I wasn't, and I'm still not in a place where, especially knowing I'm going to go do this season two, like I'm
Mhm.
not going to go buy a place right now.
No,
Because I enjoy being at home. I feel like there's still a part of me that needs my mom. My mom needs me. Like
your
we
mom's
function.
awesome.
She's amazing, and we function well as roommates. So yeah, I wouldn't dip out, but yes, to go live on my own and kind of be flung into that. Not like, oh, cool, in 6 months, I know I'm gonna have this experience, but like booking it in like late February and being like, okay, cool. Like March 1st, you're gonna be like in this new place. And it's just funny because I thought that it was just a pilot. My whole team thought that. So I was like, okay, great. I'm going somewhere for like a month. Like,
Hmm.
whatever. This is no big deal. I'll be in a hotel. And then I remember talking to like the lead Breck of the show and being like, yeah, like you at the hotel too. And she was like, no, I got an apartment. I was like, that's weird for 1 month. She's like, no, for the 7 months. And I was like, what are you doing for 7 months? She's like, our show. I was like, well, that's weird. You're just being like, why would have fun with that? And she was like, no, it's you too. And I was like, I assure you it's not. I'm going here for 3.5 weeks. And she was like, Cameron, I'm just gonna tell you you're wrong. It's a whole thing. It's 13 episodes. We've already been picked up. Not a pilot anymore. You're moving. So I was like, oh my God. Like it was a lot to process. I booked the show under an alias. So like I thought I would book this character named Ryan on the show. I actually played Rick Tyler on the show. And so I go to sign the contract and I'm super bummed out because it says Rick. And I'm like, damn, like, of course they did this.
Oh,
Wasn't good enough
Ryan.
for that role. Wanted Ryan, but they're like doing that thing where they like offer you a role to be nice because they don't want you to feel bad that you're not good enough. And then my team and I like sorted it out. We're like, oh, okay, it was an alias. And then Super Suits calls, which is a department, and is like, hey, let's start building your suit. And
What?
that was how I found out I was playing a superhero. So it really just was a whole like after yeah.
Oh my. Okay. You just totally skimmed over the line like super suits called. Like, excuse me? Like, now you're just a superhero?
Now you're just a superhero. That's literally how it goes. They just like called. They were like, hey, like let's get your first fitting going. And there was no mention in my contract of playing Hourman. It was truly like you're playing Rick Tyler. He's a kid in high school. You get 10 episodes. Like it was very standard. And then all of a sudden, yeah, they call and they're like, let's get you in. And they're emailing me. And I'm like, I still don't understand it. So then I go down to meet them. Kind of, I get that I might have something cool now. I'm like, am I a wizard? Like, what is this? Can I
You're a wizard,
fly?
Harry.
Yeah. And then I get there and they walk me down this hallway and everyone who's been cast has their face very well edited onto their super villain or hero costume. I'm like walking a hall of fame. It's like one at a time being like, oh my God, a lot of these characters I've never heard of before. This is crazy. And then we get to the end. There's just this massive poster of this gorgeous suit. It's like gold, navy, red suit. And my face is on it. And I peed a little.
I'm sure. I feel like that's a very good moment to just decide, like, I have to pee slightly. Like,
Yeah, it was
wow.
just like a practical joke. I was like, someone stop. Like
Where's the camera?
yeah, like this is ridiculous. What do you mean? Like, who is this? What? It just was. It was. Everyone else knew, and everyone else got such a kick out of me being like this deer in the headlights. I was like, I don't understand. Like, please help me.
They have to have fun with you. So,
Yeah,
oh my God. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about, because I think this is something cool to add. So, you're a
yeah,
superhero, but you were also diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So, how is it being a superhero and also, talking about that as well?
yeah. I mean, I think being type one and having all these other things I navigate as a person too, and then also being a superhero, like I just wouldn't want that any other way. And
Yeah.
I think that it's I like the idea that superheroes are just complicated people with issues that step into power or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I believe in that, and I think that it does mean like our perceived limitations don't actually prohibit us from doing the things we want to do and might actually be our superpowers. I think my type one in a lot of ways explains the best parts of my personality now. You know what I mean? Like the parts of me that are organized and that are responsible, that are empathetic towards what other people might be going through. So it's like, in a way, I just don't think I'd be the person that I am without type one. And knowing there's a ton of kids out there that have it and a ton of people out there that have it, and them getting to see not one, but two type one diabetics, kicking butt on screen. Breck and I, it's, that means a lot to me.
Did
So
that bond you and Breck from the get-go, or did you not know? Or you're just like, hey, this is who I am, How did that come about, that conversation?
yeah, I totally knew of her. And she like loosely knew of me. She'd worked a lot more. So, like I knew of her from a show I'd almost been on with her a million times. But then I knew her through JDRF, which is Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Um, I'm an ambassador for them, and she is as well. But we'd never met each other. There were a couple years where we were supposed to like do like dance choreography at like events together, but like one of us didn't come or what. It was just like a funny thing. And then
Missing, yeah.
yeah, and then when it came time and I was auditioning for the show, I knew she was attached, and I was like, that'd be so cool. That'd be really wild. Like, well, I just like to work with another type one, to work with someone that I'm sure I'm gonna have stuff in common with. And then all of a sudden you booked the show, and it was instant. Like she can do no wrong in my eyes. Like she could kill a person, and I'd be like, but you're type one,
It's
like
okay.
it's okay. I bet you had a low blood sugar. I'm sure it wasn't your fault. So I think there was always going to be a special place in my heart for her, and that did give way to a really cool friendship. And literally having someone in a super suit on set at 4 a.m. with you and being like able to pass them a needle or vice versa, or pass each other a little sugar because you can tell the other one's like having a you're
Amazing.
not you and you're hungry moment or whatever. Like that's amazing. I've never had that. To be able to ask someone near you if they have a supply that you need, or to know that they're not feeling well and like put something in their trailer for them. Like there's just an unspoken support and like I got you no matter what happens here. That was very, very cool.
That's awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
God. How ironic and like small the world is for that to happen, you know?
It does. It's one of those things that really makes me feel that there are no accidents, like there are lots of things that make me feel like there are, but then that
Of
happens, and
course.
then you're like, what? Like, yeah, it is crazy, and yeah, I think I can't wait to see what other opportunities I can create and collaborate with Breck on in relation to supporting our Type 1 community. There were not Type 1 superheroes when we were growing up, and that would have been nuts, and
Hmm.
getting those messages from people and from parents and talking to their kids. It's you can tell that they're processing like at their young age, like what if I could be a superhero too. And for them there's no separation of like, they're not saying what if I could act and become a superhero. They're saying like, what if I could actually be a hero? And you're like, yes, do that.
That is what you need to do.
Do that. Don't jump off anything high, but be a hero. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how are you a hero now in your own world? Like, what are you passionate about aside
Such a
from,
such a
what
good
we just
question.
talked about?
Yeah. Um, I think it's like I genuinely do my best every day to be the the most aware, giving, sensitive, present version of myself in the many roles that I play in my own life. As a son, as a brother, as a friend. If I'm seeing someone, as a partner, just like navigating all of that and trying to do it
Mhm.
gracefully. Um, but specific to where we are in the world right now, I'm a very, very, very strong advocate for human rights, and for civil rights. And it was when quarantine hit, that was its own thing. But then
Yeah.
obviously the second massive wave hits with George Floyd's death. And for me, that looked like 3 4 weeks of like protesting every day and going to police precincts, and then that became like that, like my body shut down on me, and then it was like working from home and making sure I didn't have the virus. And but I think whether I had no following at all, or and lived in a cave, or the whatever, however many followers I have now, I do believe it's like my responsibility and everybody's to take care of like our brothers and sisters of the universe, or children of God, or whatever you want to call it. Like I think that we owe each other that, and history repeats itself. And there have been so many
Mhm.
times where the world turned away from one group of suffering people, thinking that the suffering and the people causing the suffering would never come for them. And I just like all of that. It bothers me terribly, and I do feel the weight of the world, as I'm sure a lot of us do, to like fix the whole thing. And I know I can't.
Yeah.
Um, but I finally like realized that because I met this amazing group of activists, and we were in a group of like 30 35 people doing Zooms every week and like really engaging and whatever, and there was a lot of actors in it. And so like there was a kind of powerful social status, but we just we were trying to do so much as like these little babies. And I think everyone realized we were better off joining these really established organizations that spoke to us as individuals so that we could have 2 or 3 weekly engagements or one or whatever and dedicate time without feeling like our entire lives had become about activism. Because it sounds bad to say that, but there's a reality to like, if you have a career that isn't being an activist,
Mm-hmm.
how do you be a responsible human being and use your career to help, but then also like have a life and, you know, um,
Definitely.
but then there's so much privilege in that too, because, you know, having the ability to be like, yeah, I'm tired, or I had a good 4 weeks, and stepping away from it, like you can't do that either. So for me, I
Yeah.
think it was navigating, how do I go from like this like peak performance of like really, really, really being active and being out there and being supportive, how do I make sure that that doesn't completely tank?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think there are so many ways to be a superhero, you know, in your daily life. And I think practicing honesty, compassion, gentleness with yourself and others, kindness, like those are all things that I strive for. Taking care of my own health, you know, so that I can give more, so that my well is full. Um, you know, and all those things are just, there's so many ways I think to do that. But and then having this platform as Rick now, as Hourman, and just being available to the amazing people who are watching our show and hearing what they have to say and responding to their questions, concerns, hopes about the show. Like it's very important to me that they know that we're listening, because we wouldn't have a show or a second season without them, you know?
Yeah.
So
Wow. So how do you relate most to, I know, a lot.
the
That was a lot.
whole, I don't
The
even
whole
know if
thing.
I answered the
You
question.
did. No, you did. You definitely did. We kind of danced around it, but it was all collectively the
Yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
you crushed it. So how do you relate like most to your character, Rick?
Um,
I know that's a loaded question.
no, it's a great question though, and every time I'm asked that question, like something else comes up, you know. It just depends on the moment, but I honestly like I relate to I relate to the very intense nature with which Rick criticizes and sort of creates his own limits. You know what I mean? Like he's so hard on himself and is so certain of his limited potential that he doesn't go out in the world and achieve a lot. And I know what it's like to put those limits on myself. And at the time that I booked Rick, I feel like both of us just had a tremendous sense of frustration with ourselves. And as the season went on, like Rick finds this new family as Cameron was finding these new friendships, and both of us are kind of getting more independent, and you know, and you just like that we mirrored each other a lot, and so it was not hard to find my in with him, because I know the sensitivity, and um, I know the loss to some degree that he was experiencing, and the way that that grief kind of turned him inside out because no one was helping him heal from it, you know.
Mhm.
um, all of that. The only thing that's really different between us is the impulsivity. Like I'm like Rick's internal kind of gear turning, and then he's the outward version of me. Like I feel super upset about something, and I like go in and like overthink it and like spin on it and try to make it make sense intellectually and like ethereally, and Rick just like hits things, you know, because he's overwhelmed, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
sometimes you just have to hit things, I guess.
yeah,
Not people, just
not
things.
people, yeah, but you know, walls, pillows,
Mm-hmm. Air.
air, yeah.
But oh my gosh. What is next for you? Aside from season two of Stargirl, what do you see yourself doing to be a better Cameron?
Yeah, I mean, that's really it, right? Like, if you're not doing that and you're not taking care of yourself and you're not working on yourself, like, none of the other stuff really means anything. Like
Yeah.
the show and any success that might come and partners that come in, like, I really do just want to be like, I'm really healthy right now. I'd like to just stay healthy. I love when my blood sugars are great. I love when I'm on top of managing those. I think my career is pretty routineless. You just sort of like wander until you book jobs, and I'm really working on structure and figuring out how to nurture other parts of myself without necessarily needing to go to college, but wanting some of that um, stimulation, and so I think like if I could have if I could get into like a 6 month groove of like 10 p.m. bedtimes, 5 or 6 a.m. like up times to like do my creative stuff, train immediately. I built a sauna at my house, like I like use that for an hour,
Wow.
like get all the wellness stuff out of the way. Eat my 3 meals a day, and then do you know what I mean? Like some service
Yep.
in a day, some creativity in a day, like I have a lot of stuff to express, and I'm just learning how to do that, like with music and with writing, like scripts and that kind of stuff. So,
Music.
yeah, I know. So I think the best version of myself is just a version of myself that gives me a fighting chance by like getting my rest and really taking care of my health and just like continuing to heal from a bunch of stuff that hit really hard this year. Like I'm sure a lot of us, it seems like everybody experienced. So that's what's next. And then, season 2 of Stargirl, I think in October, you know. So that'll be an amazing opportunity to go work again, be
Yeah.
a more confident version of myself than I was in the first season, and really just enjoy the hell out of it and be present and be like a sophomore. Like there's gonna be new kids on the block and be like, "What's up, new kid? I've been here." Like
You're
that's
like,
that's
hey, yeah.
yeah, like if you ever need anything, just like I mean, like I know how to do this now. So that's crazy to me, and I look forward to that. And I developed such amazing friendships the first season, so I hope a lot of those people come back, and I hope new people come in that I can have that with too. Um, like that'll take up a good part of my end of the year and next year, and after that, like just do some theater, do some films. I really do want to like find a way to put some music out there. Um, you
Do you
know,
sing?
yeah, yeah. I've
What?
always kind of done that in a very closeted way. Like I've always sang and whatever, but honestly, it wasn't until I had all this downtime in Atlanta that I was like just always playing guitar and I had this third floor apartment on this off of Ponce, this really busy, kind of crazy street in like the middle of the city. And there were always like prostitutes fighting each other
Oh,
and
great.
like people like beating each other up and just a whole slew of stuff happening. But I was on the third floor, so I was always very
You're
safe, I
safe.
felt.
Yeah.
So I could like watch it. And I found this amazing, all the furniture in my apartment I found in the garage, all of it. It was all really nice, I thought. And so I found this amazing, like solid wood bench, and I would sit and play guitar and just sort of serenade the people that while they were like beating each other up or fighting, while also gauging like, do I need to call the cops? And like it never felt like that. They were always like, good, you know.
Yeah.
But that's where the music thing really started. And then I got back here and quarantine hit, and I just had a lot to like get out. And it's taken a couple friends of mine being like, hey, you don't have to be a pro at this. Like you're skilled enough to do this, try. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna try, you know.
Oh my God. So when can people expect to hear like some trying or something?
Yeah, there's some trying out there, like already. Like
Oh,
yeah,
where? Because I haven't seen it.
I got audacious a couple days ago after the last episode came out. Sad episode, like I said, and there's a song at the very end that sort of sinks you more into like the whole thing. And that was Dancing on My Own, but not Robin's version, Callum Scott's. And so, for whatever reason, I chose to go on a live and sing a cover of that. Um, which was really cool. It was just really fun to do that, and I really dug that. And I've been kind of like putting like every couple days I'll like put like cool little guitar stuff on my Instagram stories, and I worked up the courage to hit up a couple friends and ask them for like produced tracks. So like who knows? I mean, a couple
Yeah.
months, 6 months, I'm vibing it out, but it's been really good for me, and I'm having fun with it. So
That's awesome. Good for you.
yeah,
You're just
thank
like tackling all of it.
just being a weird little awkward sloth cam who wants to try things and and gets bored easily. So,
Ah, Oh my
Yeah.
God.
How about you? What's going on for you artistically right now?
Oh my gosh, that's like funny question. I have just been so passionate and so busy with the Blatantly Honest Foundation.
Yeah.
Obviously, COVID has flipped everyone on their head, for better lack of words. So it has just been hard. I mean, originally we wanted to have a curriculum in schools, and that didn't happen because God knows where kids will be. So we're working on developing like a game and letting kids like build the culture of the school that they want on the moon because we have that moon project. So we really just want to like find ways for kids to not be scared to talk about bullying and mental health. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of where my creativity is going because I was never like, Makaila, you're going to design like a video game. Like, I don't play video games. So,
Gotcha.
it's just a
Right.
lot of conceptual.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that.
And podcasting.
How do you feel that that 2020, both socially with this sort of reinvigorated civil rights movement, and then also with the coronavirus, how has that affected your approach to your foundation? Has it changed anything for you?
Yeah, it definitely, everything that's going on obviously deserves its own voice, its own attention, and anything I can do to help promote that. Obviously, I want to help lift other people up and not just me. I want to sit back and be silent almost a little bit so I can learn what to say, how to say it, and grow. I think there's
Yeah,
a lot of learning we all have to do before we speak, so we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, so to speak.
I
But
agree.
I really,
I
I
agree.
really think diversity and inclusion is just so important, and I really want kids to resonate with that. So, what
And
about you?
I got one more for you. And how do you, if in any way, feel that the conversation of mental health has shifted with this pandemic?
Uh, Such a loaded question, and actually, I won't say who, but I had a good friend of mine who I've been close with for years. I got a very scary voicemail literally a few nights ago, and I was the last person this my friend wanted to say goodbye to, and he's fine, thank God. But
Good, good.
it's just this time is so trying for everyone, and being alone and feeling isolated. I really think that now we need to draw more attention to mental health than ever, because when people are isolated and they feel alone and they get online and people are like trolling them and all this stuff, it's scary, and people think that this is my only way out, between anxiety, depression, suicide. It's just we need to bring that into light more because people need to stop suffering in silence.
Yeah, I think they announced really recently that there's now a dedicated suicide hotline, right, as opposed to calling 911.
Yeah, there is. It's a national suicide hotline. There's also one for sexual assault victims, which is RAIN. And it's scary to see. I speak with some people there. We're going to jointly do some stuff. It's like, but so many people are calling, and it's kids. It's kids that are calling. And that's what's scary. Like, kids are at home and their parents are, oh, it's just, ugh. Um,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
Is there like as like a third prong to my questions about mental health and navigating the pandemic, is there like any advice that you have based on the experiences you've had lately where you'd say to someone like, hey, specific to this crazy time we're in, like maybe this might help, this
Yeah.
practice or tool or
I'm a firm believer in writing and expressing yourself creatively. I mean, I wrote my book because of all the crap that happened. And as you know, and you express yourself through music and everything. It's just find an outlet, not self-harm's never the answer. And just there's so many things that we have to be grateful for, like writing and painting, and like that stuff helps. It's literally therapeutic. It's proven. I mean, people just have to find new hobbies almost to fill that time and express themselves. So, but
yeah,
if that
yeah.
answered your question.
No, no, it's absolutely it's that's not an easy thing to address. So
What do you think? I mean, what is your whole stance on mental health and it coming more into light?
even though this time has been trying for people in ways that I can only imagine, I do think that there is a silver lining in that the pandemic and 2020 as a whole has brought mental health more into focus. It just seems like maybe it's because people are home and so they're listening more or they're consuming more content, but it seems like there are a lot of really, really powerful move the needle forward conversations happening about mental health and about isolation and the fact that we're not meant for that. I also think that we live in a country that has been taught to overwork. It's romanticized overworking, and suddenly all of us are home dealing with what seems like a universal sense of I'm a piece of crap because I'm not out there, working, or I'm not being productive enough, or I'm not contributing enough. I think all of us feel like we need to be these just like prolific output machines of results. And it's actually beautiful to pause and rest. And even though the stress of the pandemic, I think, has kept a lot of people from resting, and myself included at times, I do feel really privileged to have some space to deal with things that I didn't heal while I was racing through work, and to deal with parts of myself that I'm clearly not comfortable with because I don't know how to be with them now that I have time to, and it's just like we all have like this whole chart that makes us up, and there are weak points and there are things that are bruised and that need a little bit of love. And if someone does have an opportunity to step back and look at that, that's awesome,
Yeah.
so I think that it just seems like each generation and each decade of our generation is stepping further into like let's go back to physical health, and then there's mental health, and then we're also talking about spiritual health. And like it's so true that mind, body, and spirit have to be nurtured, and I'm exploring that for myself, and at some point want to do a series on that, like whether that's me traveling the world or right now just from home talking about all these different techniques that I have experimented with just to see if they feel good, belly breathing from Wim Hof, you know ketogenic stuff and fasting, intermittent fasting, this sauna, which is infrared light therapy, and heat,
Wow.
cold showers. There's like all these things that boost us, and a lot of them are accessible for free. And like stretching and breathing are yours. No one can take that from you. And so it's just I'm exploring all that, and I think other people are starting to as well, and realizing like, oh, if I'm home and I have a chair, I can do a chair workout, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I
It
think
doesn't
there's,
take much.
yeah, so I think there's creativity in that. And I just think people are being more aware. I know that my closer friends are calling me more and just saying, like, hey, Cam, mental health check. And I'm like, today sucks, or today's great, or I'm really hurting today, or I feel really blue today. And having someone remind you that you're loved, that you should go take a walk, maybe, having someone remind you of the things you've told them work for you, that's
Mhm.
awesome. And I feel that from my whole community. Like people are reaching out more and checking in. And when this all goes away with the pandemic, I think that's a wonderful thing for us to keep, you know?
Yeah, I hope we do. I think, between everything with the protests and everything going on and everyone coming together, I think there's so much more. I just hope it stays this way and the movement keeps going because
Yeah.
things need to change. People need to be people and care for one another and stop trying to outdo one another because it's going to end us. And so,
It's just not us at our best,
no.
like we're so capable and we're wired for collaboration and teamwork and a tribal mentality. And I think if we were all operating under a tribal pack wolf mentality, everyone would be their best. No one would be stepping on toes, like everyone would know what their function was and would be encouraged to do that. And then everyone comes back to the fire and feasts at night, and it's a celebration. So, I agree with you completely. I think there's a lot of quality listening going on right now, and I agree with you. Like, I'm working on that myself. I'm really passionate, and I understand that there is more a place for that right now. In like, I've been started working with white people for Black Lives Matter, and like understanding that that's the place to be really passionate. And then when I'm at functions with my Black friends, I'm really there to be supportive. And even though I have so much to say, like that's their opportunity to speak.
Mhm.
And like that's been a huge learning curve for me, because normally I'd be like, like the first to jump up and like,
Blah.
yeah, exactly. And it comes from a good place, but the whole point is that we're trying to carve out platforms and spaces for everyone, for people of color to express themselves and to speak on their journeys. And so like, it's just that kind of thing. But I just feel like there's a lot of us being more aware. I hear it. I'm having those conversations with my family. It feels like the needle is definitely moving forward, even though it's certainly not fast enough,
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
know.
You're right. So many things that we need to focus on and let other people speak. And so I guess in the whole mindset of speaking and knowing when to speak and who to look up to, I guess we'll leave people with the question of who is your own superhero?
I love that. Have you ever seen the Matthew McConaughey Oscar acceptance speech?
Yes.
Talks about being his own hero in 10 years.
Mhm.
I think that's a very cool way to think about things,
Yeah.
that you're sort of always chasing this best version of yourself, and it's okay if you never meet them, but you're just constantly aspiring to. And it's a wonderful question, though. Definitely think about that. Who is your inspiration and your hero, and how can you be your own?
The guy.
You know, I enjoyed this so much. It was really, really wonderful to catch up with you, just like as an old friend. It makes me so happy that you're out there doing this and doing this constantly, and that you've found a groove with all of this. And I feel like one of the hardest things to do is take hurt or suffering and turn it into a superpower, and turn it into something that you're actually using to like help yourself and other people heal. And you've completely done that with your foundation and this podcast. And so I think
Thank
that's
you.
like incredible. And I'm so looking forward to finding ways to like collaborate on stuff.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah, I mean, on my own, I mean, to anybody that is watching Stargirl, thank you so much. You guys are the reason we got a season 2. It's absolutely incredible. I love my job. Um, and playing Hourman, I promise I will do everything I can to be a superhero on and off screen and make y'all proud. Um, and if Hourman were wiser than he is, he would realize that we're not actually running out of time. We actually have all the time in the world to find ourselves, cultivate love, special relationships, grow into things and out of things. And that the only person you're competing with in racing is yourself. So it's like, I think him in 20 years, when he's figured this out and has a great family and is settled down, I think Rick would just say, slow down, especially during this pandemic, and just be with yourself, and be bold, be you, and be blatantly honest.